Good morning, podcast listeners. We are here with Sergeant Major Aparicio. Sergeant Major Aparicio, why don't you introduce yourself to these fine folks today?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Sergeant Major Daniel Aparicio. I am the U.S. Army Reserve Ordnance Advisor here at Fort Gregg Adams.
Tell me a little bit about the ARPA. That's essentially what you do, right? You're the ARPA for the 91 series.
Yeah, so the Army Reserve Proponent Advisor, a lot of individuals don't know about it. So it's actually an additional duty. There's two of us. There's myself and there's Sergeant Major Cato, who's currently at RTS at Fort McCoy. So we're like the advisor. We're your liaison between if soldiers have any issues between the soldier and HRC. A lot of times soldiers will reach out to me, or even a sergeant major reach out to me. Hey, they're having issues with some of their ordnance soldiers, or it's a family PCS issue, things of that nature. We can contact HRC and pretty much advise the soldier on anything. We also
Mm,
do a lot of advising on the HER career maps for the 91 series. The most thing that I try to tell soldiers that hey, we're here to support you all.
mm,
A lot of times soldiers will post these questions, and I'm pretty active on social media platforms and ask questions reference to the 91 series, the ordnance series. I'm like, hey, and I always say, hey, I want your ordnance sergeant mate to reach out to me because that's what we're there for. Instead of, you're getting that information from social media, sometimes social media can be a lot of hearsay. You
mm.
contact me and I'm going to get the answer directly from myself or from HRC or whoever owns that question.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do for everybody that's listening. We'll just dive in. And like I said earlier, I want to start from your early childhood. I know you shared with me about the memories of growing up on the farm in Mexico. Can you share some of like your fondest memories about that?
Yeah, so my I have I'll say interesting path coming here. So I always say this defines me who I am today. And I initially came to this country as a illegal immigrant. I know it's kind of controversial nowadays, but that's who I am. That's how I got here. It was due to the fact that my mom, we grew up raised by my aunt and older sister. So I owe a lot of those to those three women, my aunt, my sister, and my mom, because they're the driving force of why I'm here today, why I'm sitting here as a sergeant major in the U.S. Army today. My mom, unfortunately, and my biological father was an alcoholic. He was abusive. So she had to leave us, the entire family, when we were kids. I didn't meet my mom until like I was, I think, about 6 or 7 years old, because she came here to pursue the American dream
Right.
for us, so we can have. Because if I would have stayed where I was at that point in time, there was no future for us. There was no education. I would have, my life would have been married by now with, probably 4 or 5 kids, and working on the farm somewhere.
Yeah.
So I would spend my childhood between my grandpa's farm and my grandma's house. And then one day out of nowhere, I remember my aunt came to us and said, hey, your mom's picking you guys up tomorrow. Say, your mom and your dad. And I was like, what? I had no idea. The only reason I had a slight of an idea because we used to get like nice gifts during Christmas. Man, when I tell you poor, we were poor.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so I would get nice gifts. But as a kid, you don't really know that. So that morning, I still remember to this day, there's certain memories in your childhood that you can't shake, you know. And I remember me and my younger brother, he's a year younger than me, we hid underneath the bed and we're just there. And my dad came to us and he gave us these motorcycle cops. They were like the Chips back in the day, that show. It was
Yeah, yeah,
probably
I
one of my
remember.
favorite shows. That was one of
Yeah, I
my favorite
remember.
shows growing up. And he gave us these cops, turned them on. They started, making cop, noises, lighting up. And that's how we came out of the bed. And that's how we met my mom and my dad for the first time. And my mom came here I would say, the old way. She was smuggled in using coyotes. They paid for her to. She came across the river on her tube. She made that whole sacrifice just so we can have the slight opportunity to come here. And we were a little bit fortunate. I would say, we all came on the back of a pickup truck across the border. It's a little harder now to do what we did back in the day. But then eventually I became a naturalized resident, green card holder, and I joined the military. Funny story is I actually deployed Iraq, and I tell people when people are, talking about politics and all that, immigration things of that nature, like, hey, I came close to dying for a country that I wasn't a citizenship for. And the only reason I became a citizen is because at the time I was going to be a cop,
Right.
and I was part of the requirements. I was going to be a Dallas PD cop. My initial intent, I was going to do my 3 years on the AGR program. I pretty much stopped all my military education. I focused on my civilian education because my original goal is like, I'm gonna finish my bachelor's degree and I'm gonna be a cop. And that's initially how the journey that I that I went through to come to here to the States.
I tell my son all the time. how you are as a kid is going to shape how you are as an adult. Like people change. I said, but I think situations make you change. And based on the conversation that we've had and earlier, you were telling me that you had like a really not troubled childhood, but anybody would think that that's,
Mm.
tough. And then, come across a border, being, your mom being smuggled in just to have an American dream. I know that it seems like you grew up with like limited resources. So how can you explain just a little bit how those resources kind of strengthen your resilience as a leader that you are today?
I think, when people say that, I'm blessed on how I came my childhood. I think it developed me who I am today, and it just makes you appreciate everything else. That's the reason why I think it developed my work ethic, and it kept me humble in everything that I've done, because it was that sacrifice that my mom made for us just to have the opportunity there. We talked about earlier. It's like I'm still kind of trying to be better than I am yesterday. I just started a
Yeah,
master's degree, and
yeah,
which
yeah.
I'm regretting to this day.
Don't
And I
regret it.
think it's
Yeah, education.
uh,
Education is important.
it's extremely important. But
Yeah,
me being up at midnight finishing up a paper, and I'm like, "Man, why? I've been in school I think for the past 10 years.
yeah,
Honestly, I started college in 2003, got my associates in 2009. I stopped. Then I got my bachelor's in 2014,
hmm
stopped. Uh, and then 2021, I decided, hey, I'm going to go get a bachelor's degree. Uh, one class into it, I got picked up for the Sergeant Major Academy. I was like, yeah, I
right.
think I'm good for now in
Yeah,
college.
yeah,
And then, I ended up getting another bachelor's degree from completing the Sergeant Major Academy. And still, recently started a master's program. And I think it's just, coming from where I'm from, it's like I want to make sure that I take advantage of all the opportunities that
yeah.
have been afforded to me, and that's because of the sacrifice that my mom made initially. Yeah.
Right. I was just going to ask you, what do you think the driving motivation force is behind you wanting to obtain like a higher degree of a master's? So you essentially say it's like the driving force, like your mom coming over.
It's been the driving forces, and for me, it's like, why not? The military's paying my education. Why not go
Yes.
get it? And then
Mhm.
it goes down when I talk to soldiers, when I do a lot of mentorship, and I ask them, what do you look like on school? It's like, oh, well, I'm not doing this, and this. It's like, well, it's in your career map that
Mhm.
you, by this grade, if I can remember correctly, I think by a certain first class or master, you had a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's, then, a master's by sergeant major level. And it's preparing us for the next chapter. I'm in the fourth quarter of my career, like just like you are, you
Mhm.
know. And my job right now is how can I be more marketable once I leave this profession and go on to the next? Because, you know, becoming a sergeant major in the army is a great thing, and I think it's one of your questions, but it doesn't define who I am, you know.
Right. It's
Uh,
what you do is not who you are.
yeah, it's not going to define me. So once I close this chapter in the military, great. Now let's focus on the civilian sector. How can I be successful in the civilian
Mhm.
sector? Because I am not, and no offense to the people that are, the military is not going to define my life. It's a
Right.
part of my life. It's a part of chapter of my life. Now it's like, how can I pursue something else? My two passions in life have always been the military and been law enforcement, one in hand. And when said I wasn't going to pursue the law enforcement route and continue with the military, that was a very hard decision because my initial passion in life has always been law enforcement.
Right.
Early in my life, I wanted to reclassify to be an MP because I wanted to align my civilian goals with my military goals. Luckily, I didn't because I have a huge passion for the Ordnance Corps now because I've stayed in. I've been in there for 22 years now.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so
I Michelle, I know you know that my son he's in the army now as well. He's active duty out at Fort Carson. One of the things that I tell him all the time is, I was like, look, make sure while you're in, you get your degree. And just like he's young, he's 19 years old, and he texted me one day. He was like, Dad, I think college is a scam. And I was like, why you say that? And he's like, oh, because you pay for college, and it's not guaranteed to get a job while you're out. And I was like, DJ. I was like, it's only a scam. I said, if you're paying for it, I was like, dude, you don't pay for college. I was like, college
yeah.
is free, you know, get your degree on your first contract. And I was like, so that way, if you decide that the army is not for you, when you retire or when you decide that you want to get out, you at least have something to make yourself a little bit more marketable once you get out. He's in the signal field too, which is a great
Okay.
field, right?
Yeah.
And
I
I
I
think
always. Oh, go
I
ahead,
was
sir.
gonna say, I think his degree is like cybersecurity, but he's he's on the right path now. But I'm just fortunate that I was able to obtain the rank that I did. Yeah, that I can, look out for him on the level that I did,
Mhm.
because a lot of people don't have that.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I always say that the military is going to use you. You know,
yeah,
they're gonna deploy you. They're gonna pick you up at a moment's notice, send you somewhere else, and you need to use them too. And
yeah.
that's all the resources that are available for you. The reason I became, and that's why I'm so passionate about being a mentor and mentoring soldiers. The only reason I started college is because when I joined the Army, I had a reserve soldier, still a good buddy of mine. She's no longer in the military. Her name's Staff Sergeant Joanne Rhodey. She's a school teacher in the Dallas area, and she said, "Hey, why aren't you going to college? You know, it's free for you." And at the time, I didn't join the military to go to college. That wasn't my
Right.
initial goal. Funny story, I actually joined the Navy out of high school. I was going to be a fireman in the Navy. I have no idea what that job entails because that's another story. I didn't
Do
join the
you,
Navy.
do you mean like you actually like went to training, or you just signed up for the Navy?
I was on the delayed entry program. I went down there, saw the recruiter. I swore in for the first time. I had a ship date, the day that I was scheduled to ship. I was going through a bunch of stuff. I was a young kid. I went there and I said, "Hey, I'm not going." And then eventually I went to go see an Army recruiter. And I transferred everything over and I joined the Army.
So
Uh,
you know what? I know you didn't know this, but you know what's crazy is I almost joined the Navy too.
what?
Yeah, I went down to MEPS and I signed up, and they actually told me that I was going to be a firefighter in the Navy. No lie.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. And at the last minute, I decided to do something different. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, maybe I'll join the Army. And I think somebody got me because they told me the Army had a basketball team.
yeah.
And I was like, I like to play basketball. I was like, so I'm going to join the Army.
No,
Yeah.
so that's why I joined initially, because at the time I didn't think I was going to go to college. Honestly, my high school year, senior high school, I didn't focus on school. I
Yeah.
was out doing whatever the other kid was doing. So honestly, I was like, well, I'm not smart enough to go to college. So I thought college was hard. And when I joined, the NCO said, "Hey, you go to college. You need to go. It's free for you." I said, "Okay." So I started my first semester of college. Funny story. The first semester, I ended up dropping out because I got deployed into Iraq. And then ever since after that, that's why I'm a big proponent for going to school because it's one it's free. And why not go? Why not do it? And some soldiers don't like college. And I was okay. What about technical certification? What about ASC certifications? You
Right.
just can't say that. We're about self development, and how you can improve yourself going forward, not just in the Army, but after the Army.
Right. So I know we talk all the time about your hobbies. I think I saw you on social media fishing one time. And I'll tell you, I was like, I can't wait to get up there because fishing is one of my favorite hobbies. I got fond memories of actually getting up at the crack of dawn to go fishing with my grandmother. I know you like fishing outdoors, but do you have any other hobbies that people don't know about you? Do you like play the ukulele or the flute or
Uh,
the guitar, or what you got?
so I'm a big firm believer, and you mentioned the question is how do you balance being a sergeant major with everything else? And
Mm-mm.
I think it's important. And I'll share a story. You got to find out what you do to to relieve your stress. It can't be all about work, and that's one of my biggest issues coming up to the ranks. I was always all about work. Uh, so I'm big into H2F, holistic health and fitness, to help you deal with some of those stress. For me, it's always been working out, trying to stay busy.
Right.
I did run across some issues, and as I'm in the fourth quarter of my career, I stated before, my body's starting to tell me. That's when I said, hey, when I lose
Listen.
passion and my body starts to tell me it's time for me to hang it up, the passion's still there.
Hmm.
But I stated before, I don't think I mentioned it. I've had hip surgery already. I got 2 rods in my hip. Uh, I just had knee surgery in February of this year. I'm probably going to require another hip surgery because I went for a run the other day and I was trying to keep up with this young soldier. And I'm still hurt 3 weeks,
Yeah.
3 weeks from that run. I'm still hurt.
You know they say Father Time is undefeated, brother.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And that's great because, I talked to a soldier yesterday. They're on Greg Adams, HER. And I said, hey, now it's time. I'm trying to develop the next person to come replace me,
Hmm.
because my time is not, besides hobbies, riding motorcycles, love it. You know, I've had a motorcycle at every assignment except this one because I've been, I tell people since 2021, I left Hawaii. This is the fifth state that I lived. So I've been bouncing around. I officially got a chance to unpack after I think 4 or 5 assignments,
Right.
fully unpacked. I got nothing in boxes now. I just bought a house out here, so I stay busy. I'm not great at building things or landscaping or whatnot. So I'm big on now watching YouTubes. I go
Yes,
to Lowe's.
YouTube University is what I was going to tell you.
I'm a YouTube University guy. I'm going to Lowe's today just to walk around because I like looking at little projects and seeing what else I could do to the house.
Yeah,
So that's how, I stay busy nowadays. That and I got a dog. You met my dog. My dog goes everywhere with me.
hmm
Keeps him busy. Everywhere I go, you'll see her with me. And that's kind of what I do now to pass time here at the
nice.
house. Mm.
So I know, earlier in the conversation, you were telling me about your childhood, and I could 100% say that it was challenging. I think there's a defining moment in everybody's life that makes them who they are, right? If anybody's aspiring to reach the rank of sergeant major, what key quality do you think they should have?
They're going to be humble.
Well, man,
And
I do love that answer, man.
you
I
got to be
love,
humble. And I always tell people this, and I 110% mean it. It's like I didn't make it here, and I tell every time I had a chance to engage with fellow soldiers, like I didn't make it to the rank of sergeant major because I was better than any. I wasn't better than you,
hmm
you as a master, and I wasn't better than any of my peers. I've been fortunate, you know, and I've been blessed. And sometimes I look it back and like, man, this is a blessing. I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer in Christ.
hmm
Uh, but one of the main things that got me here has been mentorship. You know,
right,
it's every assignment I've ran into someone that kind of put me in the right path. Um, and the most important thing is I would say is you have to have a genuine care for soldiers. You have to do something to soldiers without expecting anything back. You have
right,
to treat everyone equal, no matter what's on your rank. I
hmm
always told my guys when I was in Hawaii and I ran an operations center, I told individuals if I have a private that calls this office asking for something because we're a customer service centric organization, you're going to treat that individual the same way you'll treat someone that has a star on their chest,
Well, I
a
100%
general.
agree. I
Yeah,
100% agree.
it,
Because,
it, it does
everybody's the same once they take your,
exactly. And if you can remember that, man, that's the biggest thing. I've
yeah,
had individuals along on my journey that's helped me out along the way. When I was a sergeant first class, I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread.
yeah,
You know, I thought I was cooking. Then I went to an organization that had some really outstanding NCOs. I was
hmm
mentored by a staff sergeant, you know, uh, that was technical. I was an instructor. It was extremely technical. Hey, and I wasn't the best technical person. When I interviewed for the job, because it's a nominative position for HRs, I said, hey, I'm not the most technical person out there, but if you hire me, I'm gonna work my butt off because my work ethic is that strong. And I was fortunate enough that that's our major decided to hire me on, and I came in on that organization. It's because of that place, that school. I think that was probably the defining moment in my career that kind of projected me to where I'm at today. You know, but I never had the goal of making sergeant major. That was not the overall intent because you don't coming up to the ranks, you don't see that many sergeant majors around. You know,
right, right,
you
right,
see
right.
a lot of my honesty. It's funny enough, it was being a staff sergeant.
hmm
I remember my first eight for some reason. I don't know why I saw staff sergeant. I was like, God, man. And what made staff sergeant, and I think around 2009 time frame. The first day I wore the rank, I kept remembering that I kept looking at my doggone chest all day long. At the end of
hmm
the day, my neck was sore.
Yeah,
I'm going in, looking at and then I'm like, and then I would go in the restroom and I look at myself, and look at my little rank on my chest. Like, man, I'm a staff sergeant now. And then shortly after that, I was like, you know what? Why not start in first class?
hmm
You know, May sergeant first class, and why not mass sergeant?
yep,
You know, and honestly, a lot of individuals that I run across, they're so in a rush to get promoted. You
hmm
know, and it's all about enjoying the journey around the way. Because everything that you do in the military, it's like a chain link. It ties into the previous
yep,
assignment. There's certain
100%.
developmental things that we do throughout the ranks that tie in. So if you skip a rank and jump to another rank, especially in the NCO Corps, you're not going to be that successful. There's certain assignments you have to do. There's certain positions, there's certain
hmm
leadership roles that tie into everything we do. Uh, a lot of people don't, but we're so in a rush to get promoted. I was a sergeant, a E5 for like 5 years.
hmm
That was the longest rank because at the time I was in the reserves and I wasn't worried about promoting. I was just doing my job, going to school, going to college,
Right.
but I still made it here. It's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
enjoying the way, staying on course, enjoying the process.
I know you mentioned a little bit ago that you had people that looked out for you. Is there, can you share who had like the most memorable impact on your career? I know everybody has mentors, and I agree with you 100% that you cannot make it without a mentor, right? You have to have somebody to learn something from and to show you the way. I often talk to my son and I say, look, dude, I've been your age before. You haven't been my age before. So I was like, so therefore I know things that you don't know. So you should like, take advice from me. So who do you think has had like the most impactful mentorship on you as a sergeant major now or growing up through the ranks?
So I've had different people throughout the process. My first ATR assignment, I had a first sergeant named, he's a retired sergeant major now, Sergeant Major Grubb. He's probably one of the hardest first sergeants I ever had, and I was his training NCO.
Hmm.
So me and him worked hand in hand. And his work ethic and what he did as a senior NCO is kind of what guided me. He set the example. Physical fitness. As the first sergeant, he was a 300 guy. He would run circles around me. And at the time, physical fitness has always been easy for me. It's always been a passion. So me and him would go back and forth. So he kind of laid the foundation. Then I had NCOs along the way, like a Sergeant Major Hooker, Sergeant Major, Master Sergeant Hooker, Master Sergeant Green when I was in Texas. They set the example. Master Sergeant Hooker was a 91 series. Sergeant Major was a 92. And then I would say the one that is still constant to this day, that's still mentoring to me this day, was Sergeant Major Haynes. For you all that don't know, as AGRs, we have 5 valid hard-coded 91 series positions.
Hmm.
And that's why I always advocate for soldiers to go to the ordnance schoolhouse, because you have one of your AGR sergeant majors there.
Exactly.
And he was the one that took a chance on me, that hired me, because I
Hmm.
interviewed. I have no idea why he hired me. Probably the person that I interviewed against wasn't that great, because my interview wasn't good at all. I wasn't an expert at being a maintainer, because I've never done the same job throughout my career, throughout a PCS. I've never been a motor sergeant twice. I've only been a motor sergeant once. I've always
Hmm.
PCS and did something else. So he took the chance on me, and he was a career soldier. He spent half his time on active duty, transitioned over, came AGR, and he was hard on me.
Right.
He wasn't my friend. He didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He told me what I needed to hear. As far as, you need to do this, you need to do that. And one memorable thing that sticks out about him, right before I PCS, he asked me to extend. And I said, yeah, I'll extend, Sergeant Major, definitely, to be an instructor for another year. And I ended up getting picked up to go. At the time, I got selected to go down to somewhere, I think it was Fort Benning at the time, to a
Hmm.
drill sergeant command to do ops. So I interviewed, got selected. That assignment obviously fell through. So I had to break it to him. Hey, unfortunately, Sergeant Major, this position, they interviewed me, they selected me for it. And I thought he was going to, it's like telling your dad, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Because I promised him that I was going to stay on board for an additional year. And he actually, he's like, I think that's the right decision for your career. And I strongly support it. And he brought me into his office and he gave me this token that I never forget. It was a Sergeant Major coin. And that's when I said, okay, maybe I do have a chance. And he said, this coin was passed down from a Sergeant Major to a Master Sergeant, from a Sergeant Major to a Master Sergeant, that they saw that they had potential in. And I've been holding this coin for a while and I don't know who to give it to. And he's like, I'm going to give it to you because I think you have potential to be a Sergeant Major. And I was like, awesome. And I could tell he was a little choked up. This is a guy who's pretty, you don't show too many emotions that day, but he was talking to me like I was his son almost in a
Yeah.
way. He gave me that coin. I actually passed it on to someone else not too long ago for the same reason, because I thought they had potential to sit here in this position where I'm at now. And after that, he's been my soul. I still contacted me the other day just to talk to see how I was doing. And then I've had great officers that mentored me along the way.
Hmm.
A lot of my mentorships been from NCOs and the officers. I had
Hmm.
a great guides, Lieutenant Colonel, just retired Akers, Major Rucker, Lieutenant Colonel G, who's still in Hawaii right now, just went back out to Hawaii. Then I called for advice. I used to work for Colonel Akers, and a lot of individuals have a hard time taking criticism, but he had a high expectation of how he wanted to run things. He was my chief of law operations. He was my chops. And you mess up, he's going to let you know about it.
Right.
But that's
Right.
great because he didn't hold it against you. He let you know about it, and you keep moving on. And if you keep messing up, he's eventually going to replace you.
Hmm.
That's just common sense. But you got to do your
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. As they
Um,
should. Well, I
so,
know.
okay,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So he kind of, I always tell people, and I tell him to this day, he was a hard but that's what I needed,
Yeah. Hard but fair. And I think
hard but
that's
fair.
good. And I think
Yes.
that's good. I think that's something that a lot of or essentially the army is missing nowadays. Some people they just want to be fair across the board, but
Yeah.
you have to be hard on everybody and you have to be fair on everybody.
I think if it comes from a good place,
Yeah.
I could tell you can ask people that, especially now that I'm at where I'm at now, that say, what about Sergeant Major? What do you think? Some people are going to say great things. Some people are not going to say great things. But it all comes down to, are you fair across the board?
Yeah.
It's about it's about, I always tell people, it's not likership, it's called leadership.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yeah.
more involved in likership as far as I'm making decisions so you like me, we're going to fail. I'm not here for that. We talk about, I think one of the questions down the road was leadership philosophy. And my leadership philosophy is pretty simple.
Yeah.
It involves three pillars: the organization, the soldier, and the family.
Mhm.
Is how can I make all those three successful is my intent. You're not going to like me,
Yeah.
but I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to build you to be successful one day once you leave here. And
Right.
that's the overall goal.
So leadership, not likership.
Leadership, not leadership. If my sole purpose is that an organization will like me, so I'm going to make decisions to be liked, I'm going to fail. Okay?
Yeah.
Just that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
It's impossible to run an organization with so many individuals, so many personalities to be liked. It's just
Yeah.
impossible. Not everyone is going to like you. That's just a common sense of it.
Yeah. What was your look? I know like a lot of people look at the rank of sergeant major and like you mentioned earlier, some people just want to get promoted. My son often says to me, "Oh, I can't wait until I make E4, then I'll make E5." Then I was like, "Man, that's your question." I was like, "Why you want to get promoted?" Is "Oh, I want to make more money." And I was like, "Okay, that's understandable." I was like, "But you have to have a true passion for wanting to be like in a leadership position." And with that being said, people look at your rank and your rank of sergeant major. What do you feel like? And you touched on it a little bit, but what do you feel like the driving force was for you to want to achieve the rank of sergeant major?
I would say it was never a driving force. If I had to maybe put one thing into perspective, it'd probably uh, be in a position where I can give back and I can set soldiers up. I can give individuals something that I didn't have growing up. Because throughout my junior enlisted ranks, I had no idea who my ordnance sergeant majors were. We have soldiers in our ranks right now that don't know who some of their ordnance sergeant majors are, and our HGR population is pretty small. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
big. So it's how can I give back to the field at that point in time? And I was never worried about making it. You know, funny question. My girlfriend asked me she also was sergeant major. She asked me when I graduated the academy, "How do you feel?" And I felt numb. I said, I don't know. It's like, are you excited? I was like, I don't know. I think it's because I've been working so long it's like, okay, what now? What's
yeah,
next? It's not a defining, it's great. But again, it doesn't define me. It's
yeah,
just a stepping stone of of a next step to come. And I always looked at it this way. A lot of people get really stressed out about board results. You know,
mhm,
maybe I'm being a little cocky because once I'm 87, everything was the first time go after that.
yeah,
And against the blessing, you know. But I always looked at it this way. And again, I'm gonna talk about career map because I'm a big proponent of following your career map, going to school, setting yourself apart from your peers. I've always looked at it when a board came up. Did I do everything I could have to be competitive for the board? Is there
mhm,
anything that I left on the table? The answer was always no. I always met my educational requirements, my military education, my evals were always on point. Physical fitness was always on point. All
mhm,
my records were updated. So I done everything I could have within my capability to be competitive. Now, if I don't get selected, I am okay with it. What
yeah,
I am not okay if if I have food on the plate still,
right,
where I could have done something else. And that's what was my driving force. So when I was very fortunate how my career lined up. But I always tell people, and I had a soldier recently, one of my mentees, he was upset about his position that he was going to. He wanted to go somewhere else.
right,
I'm like, go to the position, make it better than what you had when you got there,
mhm,
and succeed. That's what you can control. You can't control the assignments. You can only control your effort when you go to that position. If you make it, 110% improve it from when you got there, that's all that matters. You're gonna be competitive for promotion, But just continue to do what you have to do. Don't leave any food on your plate, you know. Continue to set yourself apart from your peers because we are all assessed against each other.
Yeah.
What makes Master Sergeant Aparicio different from Master Sergeant Ivor, Master Sergeant Smith, or Master Sergeant whoever? What
Right.
sets yourself apart? Because we had, numbers wise, you get assessed around 70 to 80 Master Sergeants on the board each year, roughly, give or take a couple here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only select one individual, if that.
Yeah, I know when I got picked up for Master Sergeant back in 2021. Prior to that, I had a mentor that was actually in the spot that you're in now is Sergeant Major Aparicio. I don't know if you know him,
Yep.
heard of him. So Sergeant Major Aparicio really looked out for me, and um, he actually wanted me to come to the schoolhouse in Fort Indiantown Gap. But at the time, I was trying to get custody of my kids, so I decided to go to Arkansas instead to be closer to him. But even though I turned him down, always still, reached out to me. Hey, what's going on, Son? How you doing? I just want to check on you. How's everything going? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, hey, I do think you have the potential to make Master Sergeant. And what he told me, and speaking of like what a good mentor is, he was like, I think you got a chance to make a difference. We need people like you in the rank of Master Sergeant that look out for soldiers, that actually know what they're doing. And he gonna leave the stuff on the plate. The first time I didn't get picked up for Master Sergeant, but all my friends did, right? And Austin, all those guys got picked up. And I wasn't down with myself because I knew that there was stuff that I could improve on, right? And he said to me, he was like, is there anything you think you can do better in order to get promoted? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what? And then I mentioned some stuff to him, and then he gave me some advice. And I won't lie to you, the very next year, I think I came on number 7 or 6 on the list, which I was super excited about. And my wife asked me, she was like, would you be upset if you didn't make it? And I was like, no. And I was like, because that means that, you give everything you can, and hopefully in the future, it goes on to reward you, right? So, but speaking of ARPA, I know that you're in that position now. Let me ask you, have you had any challenges in that position as the ARPA?
No, I'll tie it into the previous thing we were talking about. No, so there's been no challenge. I would say there's maybe the smallest challenge is trying to impact change, trying to get information out to the soldiers. So we hold a quarterly town hall with HRC, and having NCOs jump on these calls have been a challenge. Roughly the first one we had 100 and something. We have another one in October. Well, if we don't have at least 100 and some participants, there's no point. I'm not in the business of wasting people's time, and I'm not sure it's heck not going to waste HRC's time because they're jumping on the call out to support us, to support ordnance soldiers. So if I tell them to jump on the call, and we only have 30 participants, and we have, I'm going to lie and say 1,000 some ordnance HER soldiers, I'm wasting their time.
Right.
This is information that I didn't have coming up through the field, coming up through the ranks. This is a time where if you're a specialist at your first assignment and you want to ask HRC a question over a call, you can ask the question. You can ask the question to their sergeant major, their team sergeant major, or their master sergeant, or you can ask one of your career managers a question. They're for you. Or you can hear, the school's process of how HRs go to school by talking to the PLC that directly has impact on schools. Or you can talk to the guy from the Sergeant Major branch who can tell you how many authorizations we have or how many positions we're going to send to the academies this year. Or most importantly, the people that always want to hear it is from promotion branch. Hey, what are the projections for NT8 this year or E5 to E7? What are we looking like? So having these resources, challenging soldiers, hey, we're doing this for you all. And the other challenge is I would say not a challenge, is the educational purpose. You talked about preparing for boards, things of that nature. What a sergeant major told you. You had that growth mindset where you were able to take that failure and improve from it. Some individuals take a failure and blame everyone else. Oh, I didn't get promoted because HRC sent me here, or because I haven't been able to go to a school for the past 3 years. That's your fault, man.
Yeah. Almost like a victim mentality.
Victim mentality. If you have a growth mindset, I had one huge failure in my career, and we're bouncing around a little bit, so I apologize. And I took that failure and I projected to the next level. I learned from it, But one of the biggest things that I've seen across the board is we have a lot of talent, a lot of ordnance soldiers out there that are doing a lot of great things. I'll use Newberry, and I hope he doesn't mind, for an example. I met Newberry some years back. I think he was the staff sergeant at the time. And I know what he does for the field. And I'm just using him as an example because everyone, he's pretty popular. A lot of individuals know him on the AGR program. And I look at his records and I say, hey, Sergeant, he was kind of bummed out about his OML. Hey, and I said, your records don't justify what you're doing for the field.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
evals are not properly written to justify what you're doing. So that's why you have OML. It's not that you're not great. Is that we have to, if you're performing at a 7 or 8, your records have to be at that point, that level too. Because
Right.
I don't see the soldier on the DA select board. I see the record. Being able to match soldier performance to what's on paper, that way sergeant majors can get a true assessment on what they're doing out there, is how you get promoted. A lot of individuals are outperforming their knowledge on doctrine, their knowledge on board process, their knowledge on how to write proper evaluations. And that's why when they go to the board once a year and they get a high OML, they're not selected for promotion. It's not because they're not good, okay? It's because they don't know how to write. They're outperforming their overall knowledge.
Yeah.
And if we can realign those individuals with that high work ethic, that high career growth, we can get these individuals promoted. And I always tell individuals, if you listen to my recommendations, because right now, for example, I have about 5 file folders that I have to review for soldiers out in the field. If we can align your performance to your actual records, and if you listen to my recommendations, because I'm very specific when I say these are my recommendations. I don't tell you to go do this. A lot of soldiers take advantage of it, and a lot of individuals reach out to me and say, hey, Sergeant Major, or Master Sergeant at the time, I took your recommendations, and I just want to let you know I got promoted, or I got a competitive one.
Yeah.
And giving soldiers that knowledge, I think it's been a bit of a challenge because a lot of soldiers don't reach out. They'll post on social media. They'll post, hey, what about this? How do I do this? I'm like, hey, Sergeant, reach out to me. I'll square you with,
Yeah.
being able to say, hey, this is a resource for you to use. That's the ARPA role that we provide for these soldiers.
Okay. So I know you touched on it a little bit earlier. Every career, right? Every single career comes to an end. Like it just does. And I think I would want to know, I don't know about everybody else, but what's next? Like what's the next chapter look like for you? What are you planning on doing?
I'm going to give you a really great answer. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I'm going to live yet.
Yeah.
I'm a Texas guy. I love Texas. I've been fortunate enough. I got a lot of friends in the New England area. I love New England. Cost of living's a little high. But my first month or so here in Virginia, I really love, man, this could be home.
They say it's for lovers. Virginia is for lovers.
And I'm loving it so far. So
Yeah.
Virginia could be home. I don't know what the next chapter is. I know that I'm going to be competitive for wherever I decide to choose. I recently restarted my master's degree in Homeland Security and Disaster Management. Doing something. My sister retired from Homeland Security. So doing something within the Homeland Security field. I did a lot of disaster management when I was in Hawaii. One of our missions was DISCA, Defense Civil Support. I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head.
Yeah. I'm familiar with this.
Defense Support of Civil Authorities. So I did a lot of DISCA exercises out in Hawaii. So maybe pursuing something that I'd love to be a good old patrol officer, but maybe my age might be a disqualifier for that. But honestly, being a sheriff in some little small town out here, I love it. I don't know yet, but I do know that I'm going to be competitive for whatever that is. And I'm going to set a couple individuals up if they take it to replace me. I know that much.
Yeah. I had me and my wife talk often, and she was just, I think sometimes people, just like Sergeant Major Haynes with you, they see potential in you that you don't see in yourself, right? And when I was talking to my wife, she was like, well, this was like maybe a year ago. She was like, what are you going to do when you get out? I was like, man, I don't know. I was just hoping maybe to like obtain a job because I don't want to sit at home. Not that I, need to work. Fortunately, with retirement and, whatever disability that I receive, it'll be enough to make sure that I'm okay. But I was like, I just don't want to sit at home. I'll be 43. That's like pretty young to like not do anything. So I was like, I do want to work somewhere. And I would say, oh, I'm worried about this. I'm going to get this. And she was like, babe, when you were at Fort Knox, she was like, you and Donovan essentially wrote the entire course, right? She was like, you guys like wrote the course that all the students use across the Army Reserve. And I was like, yeah, I did. And I know she had more confidence in me at the time than I had in myself. But I think the closer I got to the end of my career, as I'm on transition leave now, and, you start doing all these internships and the picture starts to get a little bit clearer of essentially what you want to do, right? And I guess what you're called to do. So I'm definitely excited about my next chapter as you will be as well. I want to jump to books or either like a quote. One of the people that I always give credit for helping me um move in a direction where I'm able to like read more books, especially leadership books, is Don. He was sergeant first class at the time, but I think he was CW2 now, right? Awesome guy. I've read a lot of books, a lot of motivational books, leadership books that have helped me in my career, helped me see things differently. Is there a particular book that you have that, I don't know, had the most profound impact on you? And tell me why it did.
So that's one of my goals, is to read more, and it's on my vision board, one book a
Yeah,
month. And I'm failing hard because I'm having a hard time just keeping up with college reading.
yeah.
But I'll tell you a story, and I'll tell you it relates to a book. And then I got some leadership quotes here, and I'll tell you a leadership lesson that I learned. Uh, but there was a book. So when I was stationed in Hawaii, I'm a big firm believer telling soldiers a story, because we have a huge issue with mental health in the military,
Oh yeah,
suicide, all that,
100% agree.
all that stuff. Uh, and problems in life don't discriminate on rank. It don't matter if you're a master sergeant or sergeant major. Life's going to hit you hard, and it's how you
Mm,
react to some of those issues. I hit a point when I was a master sergeant in Hawaii, and I went through some personal issues. I had to dig deep. And I told myself, well, let me go. I got two options. I'm a Christian. I'm going to go see the chaplain. Chaplain don't work. I'm going to go over to behavioral health. Yeah. So I went over to behavioral health, and I was also talking to a couple other Christian men that worked in that command, and talked to behavioral health. I'm sorry, I talked to the chaplain. He said, hey, why don't you start off, with doing daily devotion, getting up in the morning, reading scripture, writing down some of your thoughts. Like, okay, cool. Did that. I had another guy that gave me the book, A Purpose-Driven Life. It's a Christian
mm,
book. It's 36 or 63 days, something like that. And it's a really short read, but it talks about, your purpose. Why do you face certain problems? And it's by a renowned pastor. The name slips off my head right now. And I've given this book probably about 7 times, because it was given to me from a retired colonel that was there that I used to talk to in Hawaii. And he gave me the book, and I've personally given it out to several people because it helped me through a really challenging time in my life. So I would say that was probably one of the best books that I've read. And I continue to read. I think I read about 2-3 times,
hmm
because even if I run into an issue, let me dig back in the book. Let me dig back to something that worked out for me in the past. So that's been an awesome book for me so far. And then,
Nice.
the Bible. Tonight I read scripture. That's my mind. That's a foundation, man. You got to get in the book. For me, being a Christian, not a perfect Christian, still learning, but
hmm
it's that desire to continue to grow and to continue to evolve. Tonight I got a Bible study. I live in a small town. Not a people don't know Skipper, Virginia. I'm probably the only people on my block that look like me. I'm the
Yeah,
only people. I'm
yeah,
the only people at church that look like me.
yeah,
Uh, but I enjoyed here. It's one of those small towns where if you miss church a couple of weeks, the pastor come knocking at the door. Hey,
yeah.
how you doing? You ain't been at church in a couple of weeks, so they'll give you a call. But the purpose-driven life, the Bible. As far as quotes, I had a general that I used to work for, and he meant this quote. He always used to say it, and it's probably been my most important quote that I've ever had. Is you are what you accept.
Mm,
And he meant it. I saw him personally get into some very high ranking individuals in front of everybody. Because you think about it, as far as an organization, you are what you accept. If you allow sharp issues, if you allow EO issues, if you allow disrespect, discrimination, whatever, that's who you are. As the
mm.
senior NCO that's the head of an organization, if you see something and you don't address it, that's who you are. If you
Man,
see
that's
something
that's so
and you don't
like
address it, you just made it the standard for that organization.
it's so
Okay.
profound. It's so
You know,
profound. I like that.
yeah. So leadership quote is you are what you accept. And then as far as, I always tell people my most important leadership lesson that I still believe in to this day, and I'll tell you the story behind it, is I will never ask my soldiers to do something that I cannot do, willing to do, or have I not done before. Okay.
Mm,
I will not never ask my soldiers to do something I cannot do, willing to do, or have I not done before. And that's with anything. And I'll tell you this story. When I first came in the Army, I reported to my organization, and I saw a sergeant first class. He was my motor sergeant, AGR motor sergeant. He was prior active duty. He was airborne air assault, physically fit, big old dude. Command voice was on point. And I said to myself, man, that's what a leader is. Okay.
yeah.
Made up my mind. I had a crush on this man. I was like, man, he's like God to me. I was a young
Yeah.
private at the time. I was like, man,
Man
this
crush,
is
huh?
man crush. This dude's like God to me. You know, I made up my mind. That was it. And then shortly after that, we got deployed to Iraq, and I started seeing cracks in the foundation. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe that's not what a leader is. So the first crack was we're in Kuwait, getting ready to go. We're actually doing our battle drills, doing our sand tables, getting ready to roll out in convoy into Iraq. And that sergeant first class, who I thought was, Jesus at the time, walks by with his bags, and I said, "Hey, Sergeant, hey, how's it going? Where you going?" He's like, "I'm jumping on the C-130. I'll see you guys in Baghdad." I said, "Oh man, as a leader, I would think you would be there with your troops,
Yeah.
because I know I would, you know." And again, this is the guy who I thought. You got to remember, our NCO creed says, "I will not use my grade nor position to obtain pleasure, profit, or personal safety."
Right.
Yeah. So now I had this individual who I thought was the definition of a leader. And okay, so like, okay, maybe that's a one-time thing. Shortly after that, we get to Iraq. And within the first month, I wouldn't say he's relieved, he's removed from our
Mm-hmm.
organization for a sharp-related incident.
Right.
So all through the organization, he's never there, never with his troops. He got put back in place at the end of the rotation. But I did see two of our staff sergeant Bravo and staff sergeant Han. Anytime we went outside the wire, anytime we went on missions, they were always there for us, So that's why I got my quote. I will never ask myself to do something I cannot do, willing to do, or have I not done before. Okay. And I
Yeah.
do that to this day. It's like, hey, if I tell you something, it's because I've done it before. If I tell you, hey, we're going on a 12-mile run, I bet you to this day that I'm going to try to be number one
Mm-hmm.
running across that finish line, because I believe that's what leaders do. We set the example. We set the standard. I know it's kind of cliche to say that, and some people say it, but they don't mean it.
Yeah.
They're all talk, but when it comes to do it, they don't do it. I guarantee you that, to this day, and when I cannot do that anymore, it's time for me to close the door and let someone else do it. Okay, move
Yeah.
aside and let that next generation take over.
I can tell you this from personal experience. People in general, I don't care what type of leadership you're in. If you're in a leadership where you're not in the Army, you're at school or on a job or wherever the case is, even parenting, uh, they don't pay attention to what you say, but they definitely pay attention
That's
all the time.
that's an interesting point. I mentioned that saying is that the higher you go up in rank, it's the more eyes you have on you.
Mm-hmm.
The more you have on you, some people want you to fail. A lot of us get in trouble because we can't handle the responsibility
Yeah.
that's given to us. You see it all the time when they on Army Times, Army, whatever it is, how we get
Yeah.
in trouble because they can't handle the responsibility. My rank doesn't entitle me. The only entitlements I have two entitlements, and that's on the first and the 15th. That's
Yeah.
it. A little bit extra pay, and that ain't much. That's
Mm-hmm.
the only entitlement that this rank that I wear on my chest gives me. Everything else is earned. Your respect is earned. All this other stuff, it's some people just can't handle that rank. It gets a little bit too much for them.
Yeah.
It defines them, who they are.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Well, I tell you what, podcast is coming to a close. Do you have any parting words for anyone, any motivation, things you want to give them, something that we may have missed, special shout outs, anything like that?
I would say a couple of things. So when relating to leadership, someone, and I can't take credit for this, someone mentioned this as a leadership quote. And that was like either the motto or slogan for APHIS. You know it by any chance?
Who's that?
The motto or the slogan for APHIS?
What is it?
It's we go where you go.
I do remember that.
We go where you go. Okay, and that's what leaders are. If our soldiers are out there, senior leaders, we have a couple of jobs, and that's to advise our officer counterparts on the status of the organization, training, and then the overall welfare of our soldiers. And the
Agree.
only way we can do that is to go where our soldiers are at. You can't do that sitting in our office.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you see senior leaders out there in the field doing battlefield circulation. It's because we have to advise our officer counterparts on the status of the overall status of the organization and the welfare of the soldier. Okay. And I would always say to soldiers, when I address, so my office, I know I am the Army Reserve representative, but I also represent the 13 National Guard schools and the 4 Army Reserve schools. That's my primary purpose. I'm the liaison between them and the Ordnance School. So I don't just work for the Army Reserve. I have a soldier in my office that's from the Arkansas National Guard. He's a Title 10 AGR. I have 89 Bravo that's Compo 3 AGR. And then I support all the National Guard schools too. So when I tell soldiers that I am here for you, I am not only just here for the reserve guys, but I'm also here for our National Guard soldiers out there. I am one of their ordnance sergeant majors, so they always feel free to reach out to me. And then when soldiers come out to Fort Greg Adams, feel free to reach out to me. Come up to my office, sit down, do it one-on-one. We can sit down and look at your career map, see where you're at, see what we can do to make you successful down the road.
Cool. Well, I tell you, man, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing your words of wisdom, letting us know how you feel, just really taking care of maintenance. I know a lot of people have been anticipating this podcast, as you can see from social media. So I just want to say I really appreciate you for taking the time out today.
Not a problem. Thank you. And most importantly, go ordnance.
Oh, yeah, go Ordnance. All right, that is the Leadership Conversation podcast with Sergeant Major Daniel Aparicio, and we'll talk to you guys next time.